Hey guys, and welcome in today's episode where I'm planning to test out something that probably most of you are thinking of doing already. And that is basically to get an RTX 40 series and see what's all the hype about the DLSS 3 and how exactly DLSS 3 compares to FSR 3. This is of course the demo version of Forspoken, but it's definitely going to give you a right idea about what's going on with the FSR 3 technology and how well can that, basically keep up with modern titles, and probably is going to be implemented more in upcoming titles as the time goes on. So this circles back to using this 4060 that I have right here. This is the cheapest 4D graphics cards that I could find because basically I just want to see that by having access to DLSS 3, which you can only have with running 40 series graphics cards and up, is there any advantage to running that card in this machine versus running the RTX 3090 or an older graphics cards? Basically, I think AMD covers any Nvidia graphics cards starting with any 20 series cards and definitely any AMD graphics cards to boost your overall FPS, of course, with running FSR 3. Just quickly unboxing this guy right here. Of course, isn't really much to see. This is just a gigabytes card. Let's just get it unpacked here. So nothing really impressive to see here. This is just a 4060 from Gigabyte. This is the bare bone minimum of RTX 40 series graphics cards. And we're gonna install this, oh my god, a plastic back on a 40 series, Jesus Christ. But yeah, anyway, let's get this installed into the system and see exactly how we can run Forspoken, because this is one of the titles that right now supports both DLSS 3 and of course the AMD FSR 3 technology, and see if the game looks any better with DLSS, see if it runs any better with FSR, and see if you basically should upgrade to the 40 series for DLSS or basically stick with the hardware that you have and wait for the titles that you love to be covered by the FSR 3 technology. So I'm gonna do a off-screen recording because when I run any sort of software to record in-screen footage, we are going to see some noticeable FPS drops, and I do want to tell you and show you guys the actual reality of things. So this is Forspoken running DLSS 3 right now, set on quality. Everything is set to high right here, as high as it would go all the way. And for the display settings, if we go over to the resolution here, I am running 3440 by 1440p. This is the resolution of the screen. This is the OLED G8 panel from Samsung. VSync is off. So this is DLSS 3 with Forspoken, and the game runs absolutely buttery smooth. It's around 40-45 FPS, so that's a pretty good FPS range for this puny 4060. By the way, you are going to see this limit voltage here occasionally. I can't get rid of that. This GPU is hooked up right now to its own power supply of 850 watts, and it's only drawing around 130 FPS. So yeah, I don't know. Don't get thrown off by that with the metrics here, because that's definitely not an issue with the power for this power supply. So DLSS 3 once again, yes, 40-45 FPS at times. The game runs smooth, it looks okay. Now let's switch over to FSR 3 and see exactly what we can get out of this game for free with the new technology. So jumping over to settings here, and let's enable FSR 3. Let's go on quality, just that we have the same benchmark, or the same, jump off point. FSR 3 frame generation is going to be kicked on automatically, and of course the DLSS is going to go off. That's because you can have only one or the other, not both at the same time. And don't think for a second that DLSS has a frame generation toggle that you can switch on and off, because it doesn't, or at least for this title it doesn't. And Nvidia has went out and made a video stating that basically once you enable it to quality, if your GPU supports it, then definitely you are running natively DLSS 3, as it is with the title that of course supports it. So jumping off here, right back, boom, there you go, 70 plus FPS for the same level of graphical workload, the same resolution. The game feels smooth. I can't really tell you the difference between 40, 50 or 70, not with the naked eye. You know what, I take that back. I actually think or feel that the game runs a bit smoother, or at least it should. I'm not really sure if I'm being tricked by that FPS meter right there. But yeah, I'm hoping that I'm not going to be poisoning my own judgment here just based off that. But definitely the game runs very, very good. And let's have some fights here. with the frame generations. It does say 60 FPS. It said 50 something like DLSS, but you know what? It feels a bit more choppy. It definitely feels a bit more choppy, so I wasn't really sold on this dogfight, or I should say on this fight with FSR versus DLSS, so let's try that again. Okay, so we're right back where we were. Those are the two stags that we were about to fight. We're still running the FSR 3 right now. Let's just hop on over and disable this and go with the DLSS, set to quality, right there. There is another NPC here, but let's just jump on them and see how the game performs. I'm not sure if it's the game or not. It doesn't feel very smooth, or at least when she swings the sword, it feels kind of, you know, jaggy. I'm not sure if this is the movement planned out by the game, but overall, I would say this is a twist. It felt better than the FSR 3. I don't know how the camera can pick this up or how well the camera does it justice, but definitely running FSR 3 with more or less the same FPS. I think we were reaching around 50 to 60 FPS while doing the fight just before with FSR 3, but the game felt a lot more choppy with the frame generation going on in the background than with the DLSS 3. Now, that is one thing to keep in mind. Overall, I think that you are going to get a nice experience with the FSR 3 running on any sort of Nvidia hardware, just because most of the time it does it justice by increasing the FPS, even though it's kind of doing it artificially. But the DLSS 3 is definitely doing okay and holding its own. Now, if you are going to get double the performance overall in the game, depending on for how long you're going to play the game and for how long in the game you are going to experience that boost in FPS for free, it's okay. But I don't really like or fancy the fact that whenever you are fighting, or at least in this game, I don't know how well it's optimized for both of them, you are going to get choppy fights with FSR 3 versus DLSS. In the end, how is it? FSR 3, is it any better than DLSS 3? Well, definitely the potential is out there, but right now with the limited amount of titles that support both FSR 3 and DLSS 3, it's a little bit hard to tell. And well, also you have to take into consideration the implementation of the code into the actual game, because some games might perform better than others. So your mileage will definitely vary, especially at this early beginning of FSR 3. So we should see titles adopting this technology further down the road, and maybe in a few years time it will actually prove itself to be quite good, because I do have my slight reservation according with this technology. As you have seen with Forspoken, when battle is at hand, definitely we have seen drop in FPS with FSR 3. Now we haven't seen as high as drop as with Nvidia DLSS, but definitely the overall combat and experience of the game was quite choppy and staggery, and that's definitely not what you're looking for. Even though DLSS was running at a constant lower FPS, the overall experience while battling or maybe in intense graphical workload scenarios, it did much better than FSR 3. Even though you had constantly, I would say, double the performance there on the table whenever you were just cruising around the game. So that's why I'm telling you, you know, it's a bit hit and miss right now. We shall wait. I think time will tell if FSR 3 is indeed the route to go. But definitely right now it kind of opens the floodgates to people who are trying to buy a cheaper graphics card and obtain a bit more performance out of it as is. And I don't just mean a little bit, because right now we are bordering on doubling the actual performance, at least in frame rates generated for the games, with the available hardware running AMD's FSR. I'll keep you guys updated with whatever title comes out, and I will be testing this GPU, especially with a bit more titles since I have it on hand. And for any questions that you might have, don't forget we have a Discord server, so you'll find the links down in the video description. And as always, I'd like to thank you for being so awesome and sticking around with me for another video. Don't forget to hit subscribe and like, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.